Welcome to my channel. Subscribe, listen, and enjoy my stories every day. I never thought attending a mundane office event could unravel my life the way it did. It was a mild October evening when I found myself following the GPS directions to the expansive, glass-fronted building where my wife, Eliza, worked. She had been unusually secretive about this event, merely mentioning it as a casual meet-and-greet with colleagues. In our 8 years of marriage, I had been to her office events before, but something about this night felt unsettling. Upon arrival, the lobby buzzed with well-dressed professionals, name tags gleaming under the soft lights. I spotted Eliza across the room, her laughter reaching my ears before her eyes met mine. With a practiced smile, she excused herself from a group and approached me. Her hand, usually warm and inviting, felt distant as it briefly clasped mine. "Everyone, this is John," Eliza introduced me, her voice smooth but oddly detached. "A good friend of mine." "A good friend?" The words stung sharper than a slap. Confusion clouded my thoughts, but I masked it with a nod, meeting the curious glances of her colleagues. The night trudged on, each hour stretching longer than the last, my mind replaying Eliza's words in a cruel loop. As the event wound down, I excused myself to the restroom, my steps heavy, heart heavier. On my way back, the need for fresh air nudged me towards the exit. Outside, the night was calm, the parking lot partially lit by the distant streetlights. I pulled out a cigarette, the flame from my lighter casting a small glow. Then I heard it, a faint giggle from the far end of the parking lot. The sound twisted my stomach, curiosity pulling me towards it. Hidden behind an SUV, the last person I expected to find on her knees was Eliza. Beside her, knelt a man, her co-worker, his head bowed in an act far removed from office decorum. The scene before me halted any rational thought. Rage and betrayal bled into the cold air, mixing with the night's darkness. I stood frozen, unseen, watching as the man stood and they adjusted their attire, their laughter a sharp contrast to the silence enveloping my heart. They hadn't seen me. Not yet. Without a word, I stepped back, shrouded in shadow. The drive home was a blur of red lights and the echo of Eliza's deceit. At home, I sat in the dark, the weight of what I had witnessed anchoring me to reality. Eliza returned later, her steps light, her voice cheerful as she called out, "John. You asleep?" "Just resting," I replied, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. As she showered, my decision cemented itself. I would not confront her, not yet. I needed a plan, one that would expose her betrayal as painfully as I had discovered it. Revenge, cold and calculated, awaited her. This deceit would not go unanswered. I would dismantle the life she knew, piece by piece. But first, I needed proof. Tonight was just the beginning. The morning after the office event, the air in our home thickened with unspoken tension. Eliza, oblivious to my newfound knowledge, chirped about the success of last night's gathering. I nodded along, my mind racing through a myriad of scenarios on how to confront her. "I really think people enjoyed themselves," she said, pouring coffee into her mug. "Don't you think?" "Yeah, it seemed lively," I replied, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. She kissed my cheek, a routine peck, but it burned with the lie of her infidelity. As she left for work, her cheerful goodbye echoed mockingly in the foyer. Once the door clicked shut, I sprang into action. I started with her laptop, an item she guarded fiercely but left home during her rush this morning. It required her password, which she believed I didn't know. But over the years, I'd learned more than she thought. The desktop greeted me with its clutter of files and documents, but I was interested in only one thing, her emails. Combing through her inbox, I found nothing outright incriminating until I hit on a series of emails tucked away in a poorly named folder. They were exchanges between her and the man from last night, Mark. Each email was a blend of casual work banter and an undercurrent of something more personal, more intimate. It was clear there was something between them, but these wouldn't be enough. I needed undeniable proof. Placing her laptop back exactly as I found it, I considered my next move. Surveillance. If words weren't enough, then images would have to do. I bought a couple of discreet, high-quality cameras, installing one in our living room and another in her home office, the places where she spent most of her time on calls. For days, I watched and waited. The normalcy of our daily lives played out with a surreal quality, each of Eliza's touches and smiles tainted by the secret I now carried. Meanwhile, the cameras fed live footage to my laptop, a silent witness to our unraveling marriage. Then, it happened. One afternoon, I watched through the camera feed as Mark entered our home. Eliza welcomed him with a hug that lasted too long to be just friendly. They retreated to her office, not knowing that every word, every touch was being recorded. I listened, my heart a mix of lead and fire, as their conversation quickly shifted from professional to personal. They laughed about the night of the event, their words laced with a familiarity that twisted the knife deeper. "You sure your husband doesn't suspect anything?" Mark's voice was casual, but the question hung heavily in the room. "John. He doesn't have a clue," Eliza replied, her laughter bitter in my ears. "He trusts me completely." The footage was more than enough. I had them. But I wasn't satisfied with just confronting Eliza or exposing them. No, this betrayal demanded a more creative form of retribution. As I planned my next steps, my phone buzzed, an email from an unknown sender. The message was cryptic, a single line that sent a shiver down my spine. "You're not the only one who knows the truth." The plot thickened, weaving a darker thread into the already complex tapestry of deceit. Who else knew, and what did they want? My quest for revenge suddenly seemed part of a larger, more dangerous game. As the mysterious message lingered on my screen, a chill swept through me. Who else was watching this sordid play unfold? I pondered over every possible person who might have known Eliza and Mark's secret. It could be another coworker, or worse, someone seeking to manipulate the situation for their own gain. I decided to confront the unknown before making a move against Eliza. Replying to the email, I typed with steady fingers, "Who is this, and what do you want?" Minutes ticked by, each one heavier than the last. Finally, the notification pinged, a reply ready with its own set of revelations. "Meet me at the Riverside Cafe at noon. I'll explain everything." Curiosity edged over caution as I drove to the cafe. It was a public place, crowded at lunch, safe enough for a meeting shrouded in mystery. I spotted a man alone at a table near the river, his face obscured by a newspaper. "Are you the one?" I asked, approaching cautiously. He lowered the paper, revealing sharp, assessing eyes. "John, right? I'm Alex. I worked with your wife and Mark. I think we can help each other." "How?" My voice was skeptical, edged with the strain of recent days. Alex's glance was conspiratorial. "I was wronged by Mark, much like you. He's cunning, a manipulator who climbs the corporate ladder by any means. I want him gone from the company, but I need solid proof of his indiscretions to take to HR." I weighed his words against my tumultuous thoughts. "And you think I have that proof?" "You do now." His smile was thin, knowing. "But what do you plan to do about Eliza?" Retribution for Eliza's betrayal still burned bright, but with Alex's involvement, a new path opened, one that could professionally and personally ruin both her and Mark. I want to make sure they both lose everything. Their jobs, their reputations. Everything they value. Alex nodded, his plan unfolding with precision. "Use the footage you have to threaten Mark. Make him choose between coming clean to HR about his relationship with Eliza, or facing the leak of his indiscretions to the entire company. As for Eliza, let her know you're aware but don't show your hand just yet. She'll make a mistake, they always do." The cafe buzzed around us, but our table was a quiet vortex of plotting revenge. I'll need your assurance that you'll go through with your part, I stated, not ready to fully trust yet. You'll have it, Alex assured. Once they're both out, I'll have the leverage I need to repair the damage Mark did to my career. We parted with a plan firmly in place. At home, I prepared the confrontation with Mark. I called him, voice calm, demeanor cold. We need to talk. Meet me at my house tomorrow evening. It's in your best interest to come alone. Mark's agreement was reluctant, tinged with unease. That night, I lay in bed next to Eliza, the woman I once loved, now a stranger filled with secrets. My heart was a battleground between hurt and hardened resolve. The next evening, as Mark stepped into the living room, his usual confidence was undercut by the seriousness of my tone. You're going to confess everything to HR about you and Eliza, I began, the threat clear in my voice. Or this footage, I waved a USB drive slightly, goes public. Mark's face paled, the reality of his situation dawning on him. You can't do this. Think about what it will do to her. I cut in, bitterness lacing my tone. I've thought about nothing else. His defeat was silent, his nod resigned. The first part of my plan slid into place with the ease of a well-oiled machine. Now, it was Eliza's turn, and the storm of betrayal and retribution was just beginning to break. The day of reckoning had arrived. Mark had followed through with his part under the weight of my threat. He had confessed to HR about his inappropriate relationship with Eliza, albeit downplaying his own willing participation to save face. The corporate wheels began to turn against both of them, initiating investigations that would likely end their careers. But that was not the end of my plan for Eliza. No, I had reserved the final act of this drama solely for her. Eliza came home that evening, a storm cloud of worry etched across her face. Her steps faltered when she saw me sitting in the living room, the lights dimmed, save for the soft glow of a single lamp. John. Her voice trembled, a stark contrast to her usual confident tone. What's going on? Why are you sitting in the dark? Have a seat, Eliza. My voice was calm, too calm. We need to talk. As she sat, I could see the gears turning in her head, trying to decipher my mood. I let the silence stretch, the tension building like a bowstring pulled taut. John, please, she finally broke. You're scaring me. Am I? I flicked on the television, revealing paused footage, the very footage of her betrayal. Her face drained of color as she recognized the scene. Where did you get this? Her voice was barely a whisper, her eyes not leaving the screen. I've known about you and Mark for a while now, I said, my voice steady as I played the video. The sound of their laughter, their intimate whispers filled the room, every word a dagger in the already bleeding heart of our marriage. Eliza's face crumbled, her composure shattered. John, I can explain. There's nothing to explain. I stopped the video, standing up to tower over her as she sat frozen on the couch. I gave you everything, Eliza. Trust, love, loyalty. And you threw it all away for a fling with a coworker. It wasn't just a fling. Her outburst surprised both of us. I was going to tell you, but I didn't know how. It started out as just some foolish mistake. But it became more, and I stopped caring about us. I finished for her, my voice cold. Well, Eliza, today your choices come full circle. What do you mean? Panic edged her voice as she tried to stand, but I motioned for her to stay seated. I mean that not only is your little secret out, your career is finished at the company. Mark confessed everything to HR today. And by everything, I mean everything. Including the part you played in it. You wouldn't. Her disbelief was palpable, but so was my resolve. I already have. And there's more. I'm filing for divorce first thing in the morning. And thanks to a very accommodating lawyer, I've ensured that the terms are unfavorable to you, to say the least. Eliza was shaking now, tears streaming down her face. You can't do this to me. It was a mistake, John. Please, we can work this out. No, Eliza. My refusal was final, a slamming of the door on what we once had. We're past that. You made your choice, and now you live with it. I left her there, sobbing in the dim light of our living room, the ruins of our marriage lying as shattered as the promises she broke. I walked out into the cool night air, the weight of my wedding ring oppressive on my finger. At the edge of the river that ran behind our house, I took off the ring and threw it into the flowing water, watching it disappear into the dark depths. The next morning, I woke up to an empty house, the silence a stark reminder of the life I had purged. The divorce proceedings were quick, given the evidence I had provided. Eliza tried to reach me once, but I never responded. My revenge was complete, and the chapter closed on a story of betrayal that ended with the cold justice of a heart turned to stone.